Welcome to UV Resin number 10. Yes, our 10th class. Now, last week we did these pieces, and I talked about a mistake I had made that turned into a happy accident. I'm going to tell you more about that soon, but this is what we're going to create this time. So you can see we've got more color going on. We even have some glitter, and we've got some watch parts in this one. So please come play with us. So what was the happy accident, you might be asking? Well, when we created the art for the UV resin acetate, this is the collection of acetate. There's 2 sheets there. In fact, you can see part of the 2 sheets right now. You'll notice that we did hearts, we did ovals, we did rectangles and circles, but we also did a square. Now, in my mind, I was thinking we had square bezels that were open, that you could place the acetate in and they would kind of float inside. But we didn't have a square. That was the accident, or that was the mistake. The happy part is that I figured out a way to use them with the acetate. So that's what we're going to show you today. So you can see these 2, we'll get in closer so you can really see, are using the square bezels. Now these have a back, so they're not the open frame, they are the regular bezel, in fact both of them, and you can use the acetate with them. So that was the happy accident. Kayla was an art director of mine for many years, and she used happy accident pretty often, so I'm borrowing that from her, and I feel pretty good about it. Now in this case we have going to start with this one. So this is the acetate, and it's using the purple translucent resin. And can you see what's going on there? You're getting that really pretty purple glow, but you're seeing the art. Now, in this one, I used the lilacs, but for right now, I thought I would take the pansies. So the process is this. In fact, there's 2 processes. In fact, I'll show you this one, and later when I show you the tree, I'll show you the second one. Okay, so you take the sheet of acetate, pick your size to match your bezel, and in this case, I'm using silver. Now, the reason why I'm using silver is because my feeling is that silver is not going to add any color to the art. Okay, so that's why I did the silver rather than the gold, because I think the gold would add just a bit of color, and that's not what I wanted. Now, the first step, after kind of whacking that out of the sheet, is to remove the black line. Now, the black line is to show us the size and the shape on the acetate sheet, but we don't need that now. In fact, we want to remove that. And you don't have to be terribly careful about cutting this out. You can cut around the art. You just want to make sure that you're cutting it to remove the black line, and then you just throw that away, as I'm doing. Now you want to make sure that your piece is going to fit in your bezel. So to begin with, I just place it in the bezel just to make sure that it's going to be exactly as I want it. And ta-da, it is. So I'm going to pull that out and get started. Now I'm going to place this onto a piece of the resin tape, and always a little tricky to get it to stay. I want to notice that my loop is protruding out the back of my bezel. Can you see that? See, it's not flat. So I just want to make sure that when that happens, that I allow for it. I'm going to allow for it by placing my bezel, of course, on the tape. Doing it on the tape allows me to maneuver the piece a lot easier. Okay, now the thing I'm going to want to be careful to do is to, when I go to cure this, I want to put it on something where that loop can rest and go down. That way it will keep my bezel level. In fact, I'm just going to use that right now exactly as I have it. So this is just a piece of foam square that I got out of some packaging. You can use whatever you like. Okay, now the first step, because I've chosen that I want to use the purple, I'm going to place some resin in my bezel, and just like so. And it is translucent, so you want to make sure to use the translucent one. And you don't want it very thick. So that's kind of the watchword that I find with the resin, is that thinner layers work the best. And then you're just going to scoot this around with your trusty toothpick to get it into all of the corners and to each of the edges. Also, this particular bezel doesn't have a very high frame on the outside. So just want to also make sure that this is a light layer. So as I am doing this, I'm going to then cure it by putting it into my trusty Mighty Light. It takes about 3 minutes, so it's going to take 2 cycles to run through to get this cured. And I did recently have someone email me and ask, can you over cure the resin? Well, I'm not sure that you can over cure it, but as soon as it's hard, then you're done. I mean, you don't really need to keep going. So that's the answer that I have for you. So I don't know that you want to worry about over curing it, but just to get it hard. Now I see a couple of gaps there, so I'm going to run this right across. And okay, it looks like I've got it in all the corners. I am going to remove this from the foam while I bring a flame to it. And nothing special about the flame. It's one that you get in any grocery store for starting fires. And you just run it right over that layer. Okay, I didn't see anything pop, but that's fine. So I'm going to rest this again in place. Stay there. And bring my Mighty Light in, and I'll see you in 3 minutes. Okay, it's been 3 minutes, and that's nice and firm. Now the next step is to take my cutout piece of acetate, and I know it's kind of hard to see there, so let me just put white behind it. So you can see those pansies. Again, I'm staying in the purple color scheme. I'm going to place that right inside my bezel, and then I'm going to go with a very thin coat of clear resin on top, and that will finish the deal. So you don't want to put the color on top of it, you only want to put it under it. But I was really pleased that it would work not only with the open bezel but also with the closed bezel. So that's really kind of a nice thing to have. Again, a very light coat, so a very thin coat. So I just want to get that in there. And probably change my toothpick since the other one had purple on it. And I'm going to do the same thing, the exact same process, going to spread that around and get it into all the corners. I want to make sure also that my acetate doesn't lift up and get any air bubbles under it. So I'm just going to be watchful about that and spread this around, as you can see. It doesn't really take very long, and that's one of the nice things. Well, several of the nice things. I love the immediate gratification, you know, not a lot of patience in this woman. Also, I like, okay, we don't want to do that. We want to stay in place. Okay, it helps if you talk to it, yeah. And the fact that it's not very expensive, so that's kind of wonderful, especially in this season where you may be making some gifts. And that's just particularly, you know, it kind of works on all fronts. So, okay. So that moved a bit. So I just want to be careful that it is going to stay in place. And it's fun to be able, now I haven't done anything about mixing colors, like maybe having a blue back there instead of a purple and putting a purple acetate on top. So I will leave that to you if you decide you want to do that. Now, so far as the colors of the transparent, there is a blue, there is a purple, There's a raspberry. Oh, I know there's a pink. Yeah, there's the pink. There is a magenta that is also transparent, and a turquoise, and the purple. So you've got lots of options, which is really kind of wonderful. Okay, now, like I said, I just want to make sure that that is positioned tight in there. I'm not going to have any problems. And I'm going to do the same thing with bringing a flame to it. And then I'm going to cure it as always. So it's the same process, nothing different, although in a minute I will show you a different process, as surely as I say that. Okay, 3 minutes more. We'll be right back. Okay, there are my pansies, and there are the lilacs. So you can see it kind of does add a shine into the back also. So just works really nicely, and I think it'd be fun to play with different colors. Now, here is another version, and again, it's in the square, and I'm hoping that you can see the glitter in there. It just adds a nice touch. So let me show you that. So we're going to start with a gold square bezel, and I've already put white UV resin in it, and let's see, here's what it looks like, and I've just completely covered it. And I have also already cut out my acetate, so I'm going to place that down right there, and I'm going to put some clear resin on top. Now this also has, just like the silver, the loop kind of sticks out from the back, so you can see. So as always, you're going to want to put this on something, and this works well. The other thing that I often use is my self-healing mat, because it just has a ridge on it, and that lets me get that loop over it. Okay, so I'm going to do that right now. So just did the same steps as we've talked about so far as putting the resin in and doing the flame and then curing it. Okay, so now I'm going to put this in place, and make sure I didn't get it upside down, as I did. So the stems are down at the bottom. I'm going to place that in. And you just want to make sure, as always, that the acetate is within the frame. Then we're going to put some of the clear resin on top and squirt that in. And then before we cure it, we're going to add the glitter. And everything is in small quantities, you may notice, because you're working in jewelry, so it's a small piece. So I'm going to spread this around and keep that acetate in place. Now, if you cut the acetate right on the black line, again removing it, it will fit pretty snugly into your bezel. On acetate, be nice to me. There we go. You can see that the resin secures it in place. So just scooting this resin around just to get to the edges. And the resin will kind of dome a bit in the center, depending on how much you get in there. Okay, and one more corner to go. Now the glitter comes in, it's an ultra fine glitter, and it comes in a set with other colors. In fact, there are a couple of different combinations, but I've used the this fine glitter, and I'll show you the package in just a second. Okay, just want to make sure we get this all in place exactly as I want it. I do want to tell you one thing. Last winter, when I was doing some of the resin, I had trouble with it, and I was working in an unheated area. So evidently resin wants to be as comfortable as you want to be. So don't, you know, you want to make sure to use it in an area where the temperature is comfortable. So that was kind of a surprise and kind of a panic on my part when it wasn't working. So that was an easy fix. Okay, so now I'm going to bring the flame to it and probably remove my self-healing mat because I don't know what a flame will do to that. Yeah, I'll get that up for you. And just walk it around and let it do its thing. Now I'm going to put it back onto my mat so that I can do the next step, and that's going to be the glitter. Now, the glitter set looks like this. Okay, so there's white, copper, silver, silver with color, black, and gold. And I'm going to take the gold. Now, my trick is to turn it over into the cap and let it get into the cap. Static electricity will put it into the cap. Can you see? Yeah, there it is. And I'm just going to place it over my bezel and tap. Now, I found that that's the best way for me to get a light, even coat. If you have another trick, feel free. Now, if you wanted a heavier coat, you might want to scoop it in, but for me, this works really nicely. Okay, then the next step is to cure it. And we'll do that, and I'll just show you the end result in just, well, in fact, just right here. Here you go. This was the first one that we did, and you can see the glitter. There you go. Really nice look there. And it's very nice in that gold frame. Really nice too. Okay, now the other thing that I did is in our fancy oval frame. Same process. I didn't put glitter on this, but I did put the white. The other thing I noticed is that if you have a piece that is perhaps a different size than what we have, so let me just show you. Here is the acetate right here, and there's the art. And can you tell that I clipped off that top leaf and had to clip off a couple of others? So that was perfectly fine because it fit into the bezel that way. And I was very pleased to be able to use a totally different shape or a different size of shape. So that worked nicely. Okay, I've got one more thing to show you, and it is this piece. Let me get it white so that you can see it. And here is our tree. And actually, I'm going to turn it like that. And can you see the watch parts? Well, that's kind of a time tree. I don't know. I just thought it was really fun with the watch parts and the tree. So let me show you that process, because it is the other process of using the acetate. And what you'll want to do is to place, well, same thing. Go ahead and cut out your acetate and make sure that it is positioned the way that you want it. And then on your resin tape, go ahead and place your bezel. And then you can put the acetate in place within that bezel. Yes, I know, there's no resin in here. That's perfectly fine. Okay. But again, this is one that protrudes. So I'm going to bring back my mat so I can set this on it. So what we have is the tape, the acetate, and the bezel. Okay, now I'm going to go with our clear resin, and I'm going to put a thin layer. So here we go. Same Same process. This bezel has a bit thicker of an edge, a frame around it. So you could do a little thicker layer, but again, I find thin layers just seem to work very, very well with resin. So I would encourage you to keep that in mind. And I'm going to bring it around over here. I'm going to do the same process with the flame. And I know it's a little redundant seeing it again, but I hate to cut out too much of the process just in case, you know, this is the first time you've ever seen it. So I don't want to leave anything out. Okay, so making sure it gets to the edges and making sure that there are no bubbles as far as I can see. We will put a flame on it again because that's the process that makes it work. Again, I have to remove this when I bring the flame in. Get it off my fingers. Okay, flame on. There we go. And then I'm going to cure this for our famous 3 minutes. See you in a second. See you in 3 minutes. Okay, we can remove the light, and as you can see, I did use the mat, so these were up on an edge before I cured them. And of course you saw that before. And this one. Now, what we're going to do is leave this here. We're going to do another layer of the resin. And that layer is where we're going to put the watch parts. So let me bring this in and just place it right there. And I'll bring in some more of the resin. So just to get this in place. Again, thin layers, as you know. And then we'll place the watch parts into the resin. And I love the watch parts. They're really tiny. Let me bring in the package. You can see that. And several different sizes, several different shapes. And I just think they add just kind of another touch, almost a steampunky look. And okay, getting this over. Now, one thing I found with the watch parts is you sort of need really needle nose tweezers because they're tiny little guys, and those tweezers will make a big difference. So as soon as I get this resin where I want it, I will show you that if you haven't seen them before. And we do have the needle nose tweezers in stock, so that's also nice. I hate to tell you about products that we don't have, so I try not to do that. Okay. Now, the resin is everywhere. I'm not going to cure it. What I'm going to do, I'll cure it in a minute, and I'll flame it in a minute, but first I want to get those watch parts in place. So there they are. There are my needle nose pliers. They come with this cap, and you can see why they're called needle nose, yes. So I tend to sprinkle some of these out just so I can see what's in there. And they're kind of gold on one side and silver on the other, so it doesn't make too much difference. And what I am going for is just to get some of the pieces, maybe a bigger one over on the left-hand side and tinier ones next to it. So although this is pretty small space, so you're going to have a tendency to use the little guys. And you can layer them as I'm doing. But they would be pretty impossible to pick up with your fingers, I think. And it's tricky enough with the tweezers. Okay, we're just going to leave that one on the resin tape. and move. So 3 on one side and maybe 1 on the other side. You always kind of like to use uneven numbers. I'm just going to poke them down into the resin. That way they'll stay, and I can be sure to position them as I want them. Okay, so again, just making sure that they're embedded in the resin. And you can move them somewhat about. Okay, I think that will work. So my next step is, of course, the flame. I'll pick up those little stray pieces when we're done. There we go. And you know the next step. The next step is simply putting this onto the UV light. It's going to be 3 minutes. And just let that go. Now, you can also tell with this package of watch parts, that's going to probably take care of you for a good long time. So that's another nice piece of this. There are some watch hands in there also. So you may remember with the owl bezel that we used it for just to make it look, again, pretty steampunk look with that owl bezel. Okay, so 3 minutes and we will return. Okay, it has been cured. So now this is the second method of adhering the resin, excuse me, the acetate into your resin. You notice I'm just peeling this off, and magically that acetate is affixed to the back of the resin piece. How neat is that? Okay, so this is what you've seen. You've got that last piece in gold and in silver, just to let you kind of see the difference. Either works well. You've seen the purple with lilacs and with pansies both. And you've seen a bit of glitter added to the sunflowers and also placed into the fancy oval. So lots of things. All of that is made possible because of our UV resin acetate. And there are 2 sheets. In fact, we'll back up just a second so you can really see them. And there are 16 designs, and you get them all in 5 different shapes. So there you go. And there's also the black and white. We showed that last time. But there's our tree and butterflies and flowers and a hummingbird. So that's what we have for you. And I hope that you're enjoying this. We'll zoom in again so you can get another shot of it. If you are watching this on YouTube, even closer, thank you. Please, we hope that you will like and that you will comment. Tell me what you think, as well as if you have any questions. And please subscribe because we have more to come. And if you are watching this also on paperwishes.com, there is a money saver over on the right side of your screen. You're welcome to take advantage of that saving so you can buy the things separately. And if you're watching us, as always, on paperwishes.com, we want to thank you. And I want to thank Jennifer, my vice president, who has done a lot of the research on doing this and creating the project. So thank you, Jen. And thank you so much for being part of our Paper Wishes family. Bye-bye.